Welcome to the Angle Podcast. I am Fort Worth Star-Telegram columnist Mac Engel, and I'm not really sure why I keep introducing myself on a podcast where I'm quite confident you already know who the host is and what you're listening to. Maybe I should cut that out. Anywho, before I get to my guest, I have a thought I need to kind of navigate through. I recently went on a fishing trip where weather prevented myself and my three friends from getting on a boat, casting our lines into water to catch the fish. Weather on Friday was spectacular. Problem was, we weren't supposed to go on the boat on Friday. We were supposed to go on Saturday. The weather was amazing, 72 degrees. It's the weather that is Chamber of Commerce fantastic. Friday night comes, we're looking at our weather forecast because that's what you do when you get older. And it's this wall of storms, this giant green blob headed our way. And I'm thinking to myself, well, maybe it'll blow through. Weathermen are never right. Maybe it'll blow through and we'll be able to get on a boat and go fish tomorrow morning. I haven't fished in 2 years. I like fishing. I'm not very good at it, but I like it. Get up at 6:30 in the morning. My friend Chris says, yeah, the guide whom we are scheduled to go out on the boat with says you don't want to go out. I learned a long time ago from my dad, who really liked fishing, if the guide says you don't want to go out, you don't go out. The guide wants your money. The guide has incentives to put you on his boat, to drag you out to the middle of the water so you'll catch fish, or at least try. So when the guide says, yeah, you don't want to go, don't go. I looked outside. Sure enough, 72-degree weather was now cold and 56 degrees, good chance of rain. So rather than go out on the water itself, three of us stood on a dock and casted out into a water where we promptly caught nothing. A friend of mine caught a catfish about as big as this, maybe as a pencil. We did catch turtles. Last time I checked, the turtle is not a fish, and I'm pretty sure that includes turtles who identify as a fish. Sorry, it's an easy joke. I am proud to say, however, on this disastrous fishing trip, I did catch a turtle. Not only did I catch him, but I landed him. I was the only one of the group who managed to bring in a turtle. Thank you. Just hold your applause. I did feel bad for him because I couldn't get him off the damn hook. Poor thing, his head kept retreating back into its shell, and I'm wiggling the hook out. I'm trying to save it, kind of like saving Lassie. I'm basically a hero. They should probably do like a National Geographic thing on me, how I saved this poor turtle. Eventually get him, where I gently put him back into the water, back to his family. By gently, I mean I took the turtle and I dropped it into the lake. It was my fishing trip. First time in 2 years I've been able to go fishing, and I didn't get to fish. Now, does that count as a fishing trip? I went on a fishing trip, but I really didn't get to fish. I got a story out of it. That's worth a lot. It's a priority. I don't really care that I didn't catch any fish, because there's a very good chance that even if I was on the boat in the middle of that water, I wasn't going to catch any fish anyways. It's one of my skill sets. Oftentimes, when I do fish, I can hear fish laugh at me, smoking cigarettes, using their vape pens, laughing with their buddies, swimming over to my bait, grabbing it off the hook, take it, plop it down their throat, take off, and I don't even know I had a fish on the line until I reel it back in, and then I see that my hook doesn't have any bait on, which means one of two things. One, I was picked clean, or two, I didn't bait the hook properly. Both things are in play. So the long answer is no, I didn't go fishing. I went turtle hunting and drinking. Guest for this episode is a basketball guy who started his career at Wichita State, and he transferred to the University of Texas, where he played for 2 years under Rick Barnes, including his senior season, where he played with a freshman named TJ Ford. This was a time when transferring in college basketball and college athletics was still kind of an aberration. Now, however, you do it every Tuesday. This guy went on to play 9 seasons in the NBA, including a time where he played against Michael Jordan, and he served as Kobe Bryant's backup with the Los Angeles Lakers. He's retired from the league, where he once served as the vice president of the NBA Players Association. He's currently serving as an assistant for the NTX Combine in Duncanville, Texas, where some of the nation's top college players convene to prepare for the NBA draft, which is in June. This event was started by former NBA player Pete Mickeal and was certified by the NBA last season. That's a big deal. Its staffers include a handful of former players, most notably former lottery pick Sean Respert. He was an All-American at Michigan State. And my guest for the show, please welcome Mr. Maurice Mo Evans. All right, I'm a big basketball fan. I'm a big NBA fan. I love talking basketball. So when I heard you were doing this, I thought, oh, man, I got to reach out to him because you're a UT guy. You played in the NBA, you got to play with Kobe. So I got a list of questions for you. You ready?
All right, I'm ready.
Okay. Everybody's got a Kobe Bryant story. You played with Kobe Bryant. I need your best or best of Kobe Bryant stories.
Man, again, that's really difficult. I just talked to somebody about, the word success and how vast that word is when success means something totally different to everybody. But I would just put Kobe in that category because, God rest his soul, he was such a well-balanced and impactful figure in the game that his greatness expanded far beyond just the court and off the court into being the husband that he ended up growing to be, being the influencer and impactful person that he grew to be. So I'm trying to see what story would best illustrate that. But I guess I just maybe go about his greatness. I just remember there was a time when we played Utah on the road, and Utah is one of the toughest places to play, right? Because the crowd, their fans are super awesome. And then you also get into a higher altitude. So a lot of guys come in and get tired really quickly. And I just remember Utah was on a tear, man. And as usual, they started fast. The fans got into it. And we came back to the bench, and Kobe had 23 of the 25 points. And we didn't even realize that he kept us in the game and that, literally, he was on everything. And the thing about the triangle offense that people don't know is the reason that great players like Kobe and Michael Jordan like the triangle offense is because every position is interchangeable. Yeah. So if we needed someone, if our bigs weren't scoring inside, guess where Kobe would go? He'd go inside, and they say, he's posting up and he's in the triangle, he's making plays. If we needed pick and roll, he'd be out in front running 53, and he'd be out there facilitating that way. If you needed something on the other side, he's at the he was just a masterful player and one of the greatest minds to play the game ever. Greatest competitors.
You mentioned great competitors, and I would hear stories that he could be hard on teammates. There's one in particular, and I think you played with him. He was there when you were with the Lakers, and that was Smush Parker. Yeah. Was he hard on Smush? Are those stories true?
Man, Kobe was hard on everybody. I have a story about that. I remember, again, we were playing against Chicago Bulls, and Ben Gordon was there, and what's Carlos Bruiser? I call him Carlos Bruiser because he used to bruise me up so bad, But I run to the block, and as I said, the plays, every position interchangeable. Well, if I got Ben Gordon on me, I run to the block because I want to score too, And I'm like, man, this guy is way shorter than me. I'm stronger than him. So I run to the block. I'm right on the post. And I was also fast in transition, as you know. I wanted to score. So I got down the court for everybody. He's on my back, so they have to throw it to me. So I get ready to try to make my move. And here comes Carlos, and he's double teaming me right away. And in my mind, now this is a process of things that people don't know about us out of court. I'm like, if I shoot this over this double team and I miss, Phil's going to take me out. There's a probability that he's going to take me out. And so Kobe can do that because there's a high probability he's going to make it anyway. But I throw the ball back out. I'm like, dang, you know what I'm saying? I go back into the offense. But the very next time, I run down again, and I try to get the ball in the same position and post, try to score, and Carlos comes over again. So then I throw it out and I say, dang. And Kobe sees this. We go into a timeout. He says, I see that you keep running to the post. I know you're going to keep doing it until you score. So I'm going to help you out. The next time you get down there, run to the post. I'm going to throw it into you. Carlos is going to come over, fake it to Carlos's man, make a good ball fake. He's going to run back. As soon as he runs back, you go up and score. I ran down there and did that. And sure enough, as I ball fake, Carlos Boozer went back Ben Gordon turned his head. I went in for a nice, easy layup. Kobe looked at me and was like, "You see how easy the game is?" And I said to myself, I said, man, there's levels to this. I'm like, Kobe is thinking the game at a higher level than everybody else. And that was a moment where I said, dude, I'm one of the best players in the world, but this guy is thinking about stuff that we're not even thinking about, man. And it's so simple, but it's true. Like, he used to run shoot around for us. He would tell us what we were doing. Like, he said, hey, they're going to run this play when they throw it from the sideline on the bounce. Here's their primary plays when they're underneath out of bounds. Here's what they like to do. Fourth quarter situations, late game situations. And I'm like, that's not a coincidence, man. That's like unheard of basketball IQ, man.
You know, when you look back at your career, your NBA career, and I know you played at Wichita State, Texas, NBA, overseas. What's your favorite moment from your NBA career? A moment that you still look back on with a great deal amount of not just fondness, but pride that you did it?
Well, there's a number of situations, but I'll go to my very first, which is I did not get drafted. I was rejected to be a top 15 pick coming out of Texas. There were a number of reasons why I left Wichita State and went to Texas. Not to go into the weeds into that, but I was advised to take my name out of the draft after Wichita State to go to Texas, and that was a great place for my continued development. That would help me spawn going to the NBA from there. I had a successful run in Texas. We did underachieve in the NCAA finals. We lost to a hot Temple team that beat us as a higher seed, and we were one of the guys that we underachieved in that way. And as a result, I think I paid for it too, because we didn't have a deep March Madness run, and then the fact that I had controversy again leaving Texas because Coach Barnes at the time really wanted me to come back and play with TJ Ford. I ended up not getting drafted, and that was a devastating blow to me. And but again, I'm thankful I had a great family and great support. I ended up going out and working in that pre-draft process. Like, as soon as the draft was over, I was in the gym the next day. And I remember getting a call from the Minnesota Timberwolves on day 2 saying, hey, we want you to come play Summer League for us. And so I went to Summer League, and the Summer League was in Orlando at the time. And you're only guaranteed 3 games. There was only 4 teams there. I go there. I play the first game. I have about 12 points, something like that, come off the bench, bring a lot of energy, had a really good game. And then the second game, I played a lot of energy and again, played really well. Third game, before the game starts, Kevin Mickeal and God rest his soul, Flip Saunders, they both come over to me. They say, hey, we have this piece of paper. We talked to your agent. We want to know if you'd like to sign and be a part of our team. We want to offer you a 2-year deal.
2-year guarantee. Would that have been a 2-year guaranteed deal?
It should have been. And that's where the inexperience, my agent at the time, we had offers from Chicago, Milwaukee, Phoenix, and we ended up accepting the 1-year guaranteed second-year team option deal with Minnesota because his rationale was that Minnesota had lost a second-round pick that year for tampering with Joe Smith.
That's
so
right.
They didn't have it. And so now all of a sudden they picked Lauren Woods in the second round. They don't have only but 1 pick. So we're thinking that, man, we are essentially will function as their second-round draft pick. There's incentive to want to keep us going on. But what we miscalculated was that they were a super veteran team. I played in 10 games of the 82 games. So I'm in street clothes for 72 games. IR is 5 games back then. IR, injury reserves, is a big deal back then. And I'd be on injured reserve for 20 games at times. Wally would twist his ankle, Wally Zerbeck, that is, or somebody. And then they bring me off, and then I come in and score a few points and think that I'm going to get a run. Wally, as soon as he was ready, boom, I'm right back on injured reserves. And so long story short, but sitting in those stands, when they offered me that deal, I remember going to the free throw line in the game, and I was my legs were shaking because I said, man, dude, like, I finally made it. Like, I'm about to be an NBA player. I'm about to recognize my goal, and I could barely play that third game. I was like, man, please don't take my contract back, because I was just so nervous and so excited. And I transitioned that to one more story, is that I still remember the first preseason game I played as a rookie against Toronto Raptors, guarding Vince Carter, who was Eric Cannon at the time, and really making my move and getting fouled and going to the free throw line saying, these are going to be my first NBA points. I want to make sure I make this free throw so I can tell this story someday to my kids and all that stuff. And of course, I made it and went on and had an 11-year career. So it's just like those memories are really awesome things, you know.
Okay. Before I get into some of these other questions, because I always like to ask us a former NBA guys, who was the best player you ever played against, college or pro?
Michael Jordan. I played against Michael Jordan. I
How'd
was
that go for you? Did he talk to you? Like trash talk to you, Mo?
so Mike used to have guys at the come to his All American camp in Santa Barbara,
Yeah.
and I was one of the guys when I was 19 that had a chance to go, and that was really my first encounter with MJ. I'm from Wichita, Kansas. WGN was our feed that we would get, which is the Chicago network. So I watched, as many games as I could. They came on like seemingly always. So I was like, obviously it was good for me because I was my favorite player on my favorite team, and they were happening to be really good during that time. So I just grew up watching Jordan, and I now we get out there, and now here I am, 19. Again, I'm really athletic. I can score the ball, I can play, but I don't know what to expect. And I'm watching everything that he does. I'm watching him from the sideline. I'm watching him when he's playing. I'm watching him when I'm playing. Like I was mesmerized. But I was watching him and how he was just dissecting guys, pros, college All Americans. He was just I was really impressed. And it's hard to impress me at that level, but he was making moves. But when he was making moves, like I remember that patent turnaround jump shot, he would set the guy up, do a little shoulder shrug, he would fade, and when he was fading, the guy tried to block the shot, and he was talking to him as he was doing the move, and he shot it, and all in the motion, he said, "Sit around, drink a Gatorade, and be like Mike." And it said, and as he said it, as he delivered the punchline, the ball was going to the net. And I was like, wow.
That's
You know what I
great.
mean? And
Yeah.
then seriously though, he has some of the best one liners. He's making moves. There's someone like unconscious, and he goes and makes the move, and he's like, boom. And the shot goes up, and he's like, "You watch me on TV. I don't watch you." Boom, splash. And I'm like, man, like these things are daggers. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I'm like, this dude's a killer, man. He's a killer. And he was 38. He was 38 at the time. Then the last thing I tell you is he was shooting around. All these campers were there. So this is like 800 campers streaming kids. Michael. And he shoots NBA threes. So he was like, man, he said, I feel like shooting for you guys real quick. So he shot 5 spots. Normally, you shoot 5 spots around the three. You shoot corner, elbow, top, corner, elbow. He shoots those right hand and he makes 5 for 5. He said, man, I'm really feeling like just like shooting at that. I'm feeling pretty lucky today. He said, man, I'm going to try this thing left hand. Let me just see. He shoots left-handed, going back around, and makes all 5.
Bang, bang, bang.
I said, dude, what the heck? Like, I've never seen somebody, like, I can shoot left-handed for a horse, but to about the free throw line, not on the spot in front of all these crowd like that. And his form was beautiful. Left hand, right hand. Then he said, man, I don't normally do this, but I'm feeling real risky right now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to shoot a half-court shot. And I'm going to make you guys a beneficiary if I make it. So if I make it, I'm going to get the whole camp Jordans. And he goes to half court and he shoots this shot. It looked like a one-legged little jump shot. And he shoots that thing and it went in all net and the kids exploded. And I was like, dude, this is awesome. This is awesome. And I can still remember like those moments back then. So
Did you see the Allen Iverson Hall of Fame acceptance speech?
yes, I did.
So you remember the part, it's the part that went viral when Allen talks about seeing Michael on the court for the first time. And it was like the Chappelle Show sketch of Rick James when he has this aura around him, right? Now, you saw Michael up close and personal. You played against him. Was Allen kidding? Did Michael really have an aura about him?
No, he wasn't kidding. I think that's just the Michael Jordan effect. And it's just, as I said, as a kid, seeing him and watching him, and he, like I said, man, I'm not respected a person to that level where I'm like, oh man, this person is just. But he was one person that, and there's been others that I've seen that I said, man, when God invented basketball, man, he sure had him in mind, and he's somebody who wore the mantle well. He pushed the game forward in a lot of ways.
Of all the guys you ever played with, or against, rather, go against, who was the player, Mo, who gave you a hard time, but he wasn't necessarily an all-star? I'm not talking like Kobe or Kevin Garnett. Who was the guy who we may not even know, basketballers would know it, but this guy was like, how is this guy doing this to me every time? He just gave you fits.
I don't know if I necessarily had guys that gave me uh, fits in that way, but from a like Rip Hamilton was somebody who obviously was an all-star and an NBA champion, but I hated guarding Rip. He never stopped moving. He was a problem. Like I couldn't and then he always just ran his mouth. And he's one of my best friends, great guy, but he just never stopped talking. And he was a guy who would just get under my skin. And he knew he was getting under my skin. So he would just keep on just jabbing before the game, after game, at dinner, everything, and everything from he would talk about my shoes to talk about the suit that I wore to the game. And he'd be doing that at the free throw line. When I was at the free throw line, he'd be like, guys, can y'all believe that Converse gave this guy a deal? Look at those shoes. That's why this is what they think about Mo. Look at those shoes. And guys are laughing. I'm sitting here saying, it would get under my skin, man, seriously. And so, but anyway, in terms of a guy that was probably guys that were just, probably like the Earl Boykins type guys, a little speed. There was I couldn't stand those speedy guys. Flip Murray was
Oh yeah.
a real tricky type of guy. He wasn't fast. He wasn't this. But man, that guy would do things like because we played together in Atlanta, and he would piss me off, man, because he was such a good scorer, but he could do things like I remember on a fast break, we 2-on-1, normally 2-on-1, you draw the defender. Now you pass it, and the other person gets to do a dunk or whatever. But he was so crafty, and he had these big old hands. He would draw a defender, and then he would push the ball all the way out and almost touch it to me like a run pass option of the quarterback. Now I get ready to get it to go up, and then the guy would come back to me, and then he would take it back and go lay it up. I say, God damn it, like Flip, just pass the ball like already. You know what I'm saying? But he was crafty enough to do that. And I'm like, so guys like that were just they were he was just really they were guys. I mean, it's so. Coach Flip Saunders used to say this: there aren't any bad players in the NBA. He said, "There's bad teams, there aren't any bad players," and that's one thing that always held true that I remember. Because any guy on the bench, no matter how funky their jump shot, no matter how efficient they are, any guy can get hot in the NBA on any given night.
I don't know if you. I'm assuming you're following the NBA now, right?
Certainly.
Okay, so at the time we're having this interview, the Lakers are playing the Grizzlies, and Dylan Brooks is kind of under a microscope because he sort of put himself there. And I want to get a former player's perspective on this. So after game 1 or game 2, he calls out LeBron and he says, yeah, I'm not afraid of LeBron. He's an old man, whatever. And then the Grizzlies go ahead and lose the next 2 games, and he doesn't talk to the media. And then Ja Morant, I think after game 4, didn't talk to the media. Those are, given what Dylan said, and the fact that he didn't talk after those games, members of the media make a big deal out of it. People like me make a big deal out of it. Fans don't. You're in the locker room. Is that a big deal if a guy says what he says and then they don't win and then he plays poorly and then he ducks the media altogether? Is that a big deal or who cares?
Not so much a big deal when you're a player and when you're well compensated to the level that guys are compensated now, so much more so than when we played even, and we were well compensated then. But now the money's so much higher. Now these guys all have platforms, they have social media. They can now it's changed because the professionalism is where they're lacking. And I'm not saying that they're not professionals, but clearly Ja Morant has his own issues with mental health and different things that he's going through. Dylan Brooks, you could argue that he clearly has mental health issues, the way that he's been fouling players and the distractions that he can sometimes be as a player, and even Draymond Green to some level to his team. That could have been a costly mistake that could have cost him the series with him getting suspended and them coming back and then now having to reinsert him into the lineup and different things. And Dylan Brooks was not and is not able to really back up that talk, and that's just part of the gamesmanship. But now with media taking that to a whole nother level, he doesn't have the words to be able to articulate in the professionalism, in my opinion, to be able to truly go and face the media to diffuse that, to just say, hey, you know what? I was just poking LeBron. I said I poked bears. I wanted to try to, give our team an edge. Clearly, it didn't work so well for me right now. And I can just say it. They got the best of us. We're going to go back home, defend home court, and that's why we're the higher seed, and give ourselves the best chance to try to get back in the series. Something like that would diffuse the media, in my opinion. It was honest. It's accountable. But that's where agents let their players down because no one's talking to him about now. Here's how we now handle this going forward. He's out there on their own. At least he's got vulnerable, and that's something that's hard for me to watch as a former player and now agent who works with a lot of young players.
Okay, having covered professional sports now for 20 years, I've come around in my way of thinking. Certainly, I always tell anybody who listens, if you're a sports fan, always lean on the side of the player in a negotiation. Always. That you have more in common with the player than you do the team owner. And the team owner doesn't care. The league doesn't care. Their bottom line is their bottom line, and that's their priority. And it should be the priority for the player. That being said, in 2011, Mo, do you think you guys got a good deal? Because there are parts of it I look at, I'm like, oh my God, what were they doing? Or do you look at it and say, no, that was a good deal. We did the best we could.
Yeah, so in my opinion, this is my humble opinion.
Yeah.
I think one clause that speaks and characterizes the whole deal. For one, we didn't give up guaranteed contracts. I don't like the fact that we surrendered the extra years the player could sign. But I actually think that the deal that we negotiated was honestly a really impactful deal for two reasons. One, by shortening the years to 4 and 3 for player movement, that why that's significant is because now players get more bites at the apple. Number two, each team had to spend 90% of the salary cap was a huge, huge win for players. Now teams that like a Charlotte Hornets that underperformed this year, didn't make it to the playoffs, the Spurs, they don't get to hide anymore and now have a salary cap, a pay that's now 40%, right? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you fine.
I'm sorry. So now they don't have to. They can't duck and say, "Oh man, we're going to have a salary cap that's say $30 million." Why the Lakers and the Mavericks and the Golden State Warriors are at 146 million. Now, if the hypothetically the salary cap is 100 million, each team still has to spend 90 million, so they still get to reward players. So those are two things that are important. And if you just look at the NFL,
Mo, when you talk to young guys, either at this combine that's coming up in Frisco that you're going to be a part of, or maybe back when you were a player and you tried to talk to them about long-term things and money and benefits and pensions and all that, did guys listen?
Yeah, they would listen because I think one of the gifts that I have is that, humbly speaking, is that I can break down a collective bargaining agreement, for example, in a way that a guy can truly understand, or explain the benefits out because I didn't just go through that process and not take notes and not learn. And I went through and I was educated. I was able to make an informed decision. A lot of times our guys, we don't make informed decisions. There's some guys who have great agents out there that go and negotiate a great deal that a guy would never understand really what took place. But there's other times when a guy get a really good deal that's not a great deal. So a guy who's making $20 million a year that should be making $25 million a year, he's losing out on $5 million a year. And it's different if the guy makes the decision with the understanding of, I'm going to take this $20 million a year. I'm going to take this $10 million a year to this 13 so that they can bring in another player that will help us win more, that will help me bring longevity to my career, like the quote unquote Patrick Mahomes team friendly deal or whatever they talk about. My point is like those making informed decisions is something that's important to the longevity of the athlete, whether you're playing or whether you're transitioning out, because we all are going to transition out. We're all going to be retired players at some point. And it's about being more than just successful as a player. It's been successful as a man, as a husband, as a father, in these other areas of society.
A couple more questions, I'll let you go. In regards to the NBA and the NBA, not so much the college game, but I heard Larry Bird say this right before he was hired by the Indiana Pacers to be the head coach. And he said, head coaching is overrated. That's Larry Bird, so it might have been slightly tongue-in-cheek. You played for a lot of head coaches. The NBA is obviously a players' league, but is head coaching in the NBA overrated?
Well, personally, I've never been a head coach in the NBA, so I don't know. I would love to have the opportunity to be a head coach and then find out for myself. But no, I think that being a leader, I think it's a great opportunity. I think that someone like Larry Bird, who, and just in my humble opinion, who is, again, I wholly respect as a player, his contributions. Again, I love to watch him as a competitor and an NBA champion, a Hall of Famer. But I think that for certain players, he's the exception and not the rule.
Okay.
So meaning that when you have players that have been afforded the opportunities because they were so great to be in any role that they deem fit, a coach, he could be a general manager. I think he was general manager for a while. Whatever he was, basketball ops for Indiana. I mean, just the different roles that they've been able to afford to play. They've been able to continue to monetize their success in multiple roles. The rule for the average player, look at guys like Willie Green who finally get a chance to be a head coach. Willie's not going to tell you that it's overrated. If you look at different guys like a James Jones who gets to be a general manager who was a role player, he's not going to tell you that was overrated. He's going to tell you that he's really thankful and appreciative to be in this place to be able to make the impact that he's making. And guys like myself, who, again, I'm as I said, I've transitioned out. I've been out for 10 years now. I love the NBA and the opportunities that it affords to our players. And anytime I get a chance to contribute to it in a healthy way, that is, while still being able to be present now for my kids, my family, I always try to fully embrace that.
You're getting ready to deal with a lot of young guys. Well, you already are dealing with young players. And as we move forward societally, one thing that constantly comes up is the value of a college degree because it's so expensive now. Obviously, a lot of college basketball players don't have to worry about the price because they're getting a full scholarship. Sometimes they might even get paid NIL money, et cetera. But a lot of these kids are leaving early. They're bouncing around from, you transferred when it wasn't the norm. Now everybody's transferring, but to the point of a college degree, do you think it's still worth it? Like the value of it is worth it? What it was to, I'm 49. You're in your 40s. Do you think it's still valuable? Like, or would you tell that young player, no, just worry about making as much money as you can, doing whatever you can?
I mean, I smile just because I think the question, first of all, I just want to give you kudos now.
So you froze up on me when you said kudos. So anytime somebody wants to say something nice to me, I want to make sure I've heard it. So go ahead and say that again.
Okay, I apologize. I was saying that I wanted to give you kudos. I said, you're a great interviewer. You ask great questions.
Oh, thank you.
And I said, it's great conversation to speak to people who have, high sports, basketball acumen. And just, again, you have a great interview style. So I just want to say thank you for taking the time to have me on as a guest. And, but as it relates to the question, I said, I smiled because it's such a pertinent, relevant question. I said, student athletes now, especially the NBA players are one and dones. Those guys only have a small window of time to truly maximize their value. If I had it to do all over again, I would have left as a sophomore after my sophomore year with Wichita State, undrafted or not, and went and embarked on my career. I said those are earning potential high earning years that I gave up to go back to college. And I'm not saying I regret my time there because I ended up going back in, even ironically during the negotiations in 2011, I finished up my degree because it was important to me to have a degree. But ask me how relevant my degree has been.
Yeah.
When I still didn't use it, my degree has been irrelevant. No one's ever asked me for my diploma. No one's ever asked me what I got my degree in. No one's ever said, "Oh man, we're going to bring you in because you have your degree." What they respect is my experience as a professional athlete. They respect my business acumen as a result of investing and doing the different things that I've done. I got all those things. Those are real world experience. None of that. My MBA, only to realize if no one's respecting my bachelor's degree, what are they going to respect about my MBA? Because I'm not going to sit in and and sit in a cubicle and check in from a 9 to 5. I'm an entrepreneur by trade. I haven't worked a conventional job in my entire life. I was a professional athlete, and that's what I've done. I've learned how to now monetize the business of basketball and the business of sports. So I think that degrees are relevant, but only to a certain degree for the student athlete.
Okay, last question. I'll let you go. I like to ask basketball players this question. What is the best basketball movie that you have seen?
Best basketball movie. I used to be Love and Basketball just because I'm a romantic at heart, and that was always a really cool movie. But for me, I love shows that are inspirational. Like one of my favorites is Glory Road. I love that historical moment. I love the fact that just I mean, all of those characters, man, those guys, actors, man, they really, cemented, it told a awesome story that, and a lot of times that are overlooked. First black starting lineup to be put on the court, and they win the national championship. They slay a huge, storied franchise or school in Kentucky, and Pat Riley and all those different things. And I love even the content that's coming out, Showtime, The Last Dance, different things, even the Rise, Giannis Antetokounmpo's story of how he came over to the America was an awesome story. I mean, content now is that like people are doing it really well. So that's my favorite story, though, the Glory Road.
Maurice, I can't thank you enough. You've been highly entertaining and very insightful. Thank you very much for your time, and I wish you the very best today and moving forward. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, buddy. I'll talk to you.
Take care.